happening now? We want to welcome our viewers from across the United States and around the world. This is the EdTech Situation Room. Good morning, good day, good evening. This is EdTech Situation Room, episode number 312 on December 6, 2023. My name is Jason Neiffer, and I am the Executive Director of the Montana Digital Academy, which is Montana State Virtual School, located on the beautiful University of Montana campus right here in Missoula, Montana, in fabulous Western Montana. And joining me tonight, as always, good evening, Dr. Wes Fryer. How are you tonight, sir?
Good evening, Jason. I am glad to be here, and I am joining from cool Matthews, North Carolina, where it's been sort of getting down into the mid 30s and then up to the 50s and 60s, and starting to get in the Christmas spirit. And I am a middle school STEM teacher, and we have really just 3 more days of class before we have finals for 3 days. So anyway, it's all winding down and pretty excited about that. So, and I'm also excited about this week's show.
Well, I'm trying to wrap my mind around that you're a week or two away from Christmas break, because I'm not even close to that. But tonight we have a special edition of the EdTech Situation Room. It's our annual holiday gift guide for nerds. And you're going to see tonight that although Dr. Fryer and I both have interesting non-nerd options, are still pretty nerdy. So at least we're on brand for what we're trying to do here. So what we've done is both taken a stab at the kinds of things that either we would want or we would buy members of our family. You can is there a way to get to these links?
Yeah, the website's all good. It's just, hey, I've even put up a few. Oh, it should be. Yeah, you can go to edtechsr.com. We had it through 272, and now we have up to 280. So anyway, the podcasts are being rebuilt. Nothing has been lost, but we have had some backups that needed to be restored on our website. So edtechsr.com/links will get you to the link to the Google Doc, and they are all there.
Awesome. Well, good. So you can get a link to all the interesting things that we're talking about tonight, if you want to do specifically, what we're talking about. And let's start off here. I guess, Wes, you're a nerd. It's my understanding, we haven't known each other that long, 15 years. So you kind of give me that nerd vibe as I am as well. Talk to me a little bit about what you tell your friends and family about what you want from a technology standpoint.
I usually don't tell them I want technology gifts because I want to buy them myself. I think that's usually what I do. This year we are getting together with my sister's family, and we're doing one of those things where we got so many folks that we're drawing for names. And I'll try to put it in. I'll have to pull it out of chat. But she found a wonderful website that was allowing us to not only select a name that we would buy for the holiday, but also people can create their own wish lists, and you can mark whether it's your person or it's somebody else. You can mark that you're buying that gift. So it's sort of like when you're registering for something for wedding or shower or anything like that. So let me find that, and I will actually drop that in. How about you? Do you tell people how to shop for you?
Well, part of it, I have to say, is that my wife is maybe the most thoughtful gift giver that I've ever met in my entire life. And so, we don't really exchange gifts at Christmas time, in part because we usually take a trip around Christmas time. We do exchange gifts on birthdays and other such holidays. But, that both heightens the bar for me in regards to giving gifts back. But when I think about parents, my sister and her kids, my wife's kids, my wife's kids, my wife's parents, I tend to provide a list when I can, although I have members of my family that I provide lists to, and even though it guarantees I will like the gift or it's exactly what I'm looking for, sometimes that isn't as well received, right? Because sometimes folks want to give you a gift that they think you want as opposed to the one you actually want. And when you're receiving gifts, it's always great to be gracious. And I always like to think about, even if it wouldn't be the thing I would necessarily pick out myself, the thought is almost always really amazing. I think that's an important piece of this too. But Wes, it's funny you should say that, because I kind of agree with you that I think it is challenging sometimes to buy for, people with highly unique skills and interests. And so for you and me, that's tech, right? And I think that does provide some challenge in the gift giving world.
And you guys celebrate Festivus too, right?
Oh, we do, both at the office and at home. And for that, you really just need a meatloaf and a list of complaints. So that's the best part about that. Yep.
There you go. So the website is drawnames.com. Pretty fantastic. Call. And also, I do have some Amazon wish lists, and I have shared those with family before. I think I tend to share my book lists a little bit more, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm thinking that generally, I'm buying. I'm not telling people real specifically, a tech item or something like that I want.
Yeah,
but
totally.
There are a lot of things that sort of overlap and have, tech overtures, and many of the things that we're going to talk about tonight do. So yeah, and I think those. And if anybody knows other tools, and hello, big shout out to Peggy who's with us, and possibly my dad is on a trip, so he's probably not there. So if you're our other live viewer, say hi in the chat if you can. But if you know of other websites that help with this, with gift giving and things like that, I know that Amazon is pretty dominant. And drawnames.com, as I said, does integrate directly with Amazon, so you can link in, anything that you can find on Amazon, you can put on your wish list. So, but this is our first time to use a technical solution. We've drawn names before, but I think before it was literally at Thanksgiving, we had a hat and drew pieces of paper. So this is our first technical name draw.
And that's from the Fryer family too, who is known for their technical prowess. So that's important to note as well. So, you want to start off with maybe a category of gifts? I think you and I took, actually I followed your lead is the best way of putting it on kind of our categories. But you want to start off by talking about maybe some of the tech gifts you would recommend for folks?
You bet. So my categories are family memories, auto, device charging, grilling, meat smoking, and cooking. Why don't we start with cooking and meat smoking? And I actually just dropped this one in. My favorite app for recipes is a paid app. It used to be a free app, but it's called Paprika Recipe Manager. It's in version 3. My late wonderful mother had told me about this. And there's a whole lot of things that are wonderful about this. If you find any recipe online, you can copy the link to it, go to Paprika. It detects that you have that on the clipboard of your smartphone and says, do you want to import this? And you click import, and it automatically grabs all the ingredients, the procedures, oftentimes a picture as well. And it really is wonderful. I mean, I cook with this basically every week when I need to look at a recipe, which isn't, I guess, always. But the other thing that I really love about this, and I don't know if other folks, probably we've all got some level of family recipes that are important, and you don't want to lose those. And so Paprika offers the option to go ahead and export your recipes. And I'll put the Paprika link in here. And then a number of years ago, I think actually as our son was out in the wider world, living on his own, cooking, needed a way to get him recipes, and realized that, 2 younger sisters are coming behind him. So I went ahead and set up food.wesfryer.com as a WordPress website for all of our family recipes. And I was able later to take all of my wife's side of the family, her mom's recipes, kind of a story. We had to get a ClarisWorks database that her dad had set up and figure out how to convert that, into a spreadsheet, resuscitating it. But they're all there. They all don't have pictures. But I have a link at the top, and I'll drop this in to Paprika recipes. And not only does this have an export of mine, which is a few years old. It's actually 3 years old, so I should probably update it. But I have my mom's, and she has hundreds. And so they're just in, let's see, how many does she have? Wow. My mother has 1,217 recipes that were in her Paprika because she used a variety of different software tools, Master Cook Mac and some other things. But with a lot of, like, this is a good geeky thing to talk about, with a lot of software programs that run on your machine, you can run into the issue of, oh, they don't update that anymore, or I can't get that data off. So the export as HTML feature is wonderful. I treasure the fact that I have all 1,217 recipes that my mom had collected over time available, and those are on our website. And anybody can grab those and use those, and that really is kind of special. So Paprika Recipe Manager is recommendation number one.
That's great. And it's funny because that's a conversation that I'm having with my family too. And my parents and my wife's parents are both in their 70s. My mother-in-law gave my wife, this was 20 years ago, a family cookbook, collected all the recipes and gave it to her in a big hardy binder. And that was a truly, truly wonderful gift. In fact, we referred to that pretty frequently. And then I've been, spending more time. There's 4 or 5 dishes from my youth that I would eat any meal, anytime. And they're not, it's nothing, nothing, mind-blowing or anything. But I used to eat beef tips a lot as a kid. That's a dish my mom made, and chicken and rice, which is something that I would eat at every meal. And those are things. My mom made goulash a lot when I was a kid, and that's something too that it's pretty hard to beat. So I love the technology twist on that.
And are those Montana staples, would you say? Did you grow up in Helena?
No, I grew up in Great Falls, 90 miles north of Helena. And yeah, the other thing I've also learned is that my food, in other words, kind of my heritage foods, I'm not sure if that's the right term or not, but they are pretty German influenced, right? And so my grandparents were in fact, my mom is actually German. She came over here as an infant in 1951. In fact, her original green card had a baby photo on it. And my grandparents were, very, 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 very German. And, I recognize now, having been to Germany a couple of times, that, the culinary traditions in my family are pretty dominated by German food. And it's a meat and potatoes culture, for sure. And so that's something that, that stuff. Good stuff.
Well, I'll drop one more link that's related to that. This is a video that I did about 3 years ago, December 29th, 2020. Set up a WordPress recipe website. So I use a plugin for WordPress called the WP Recipe Maker, and I do have to renew that periodically, but it's totally worth it. And that is what is the power behind all the recipes on food.wesfryer.com, except the paprika exports, which are just plain HTML. And you don't have to have anything fancy for that. But anyway, if anybody's interested in doing that, that is a very geeky but cool thing. And I will say, though, Jason, nothing does beat the actual paper, because my mom or my wife has her grandmother's tin rusted, still painted, 3x5 note card box that has her grandmother's writing with some, food stains and things like that from over the years. And so that is still present in our kitchen, as is the recipe book my mom gave me when I actually left college, and because I didn't have to cook in college, I went to a school where they cooked for us all the 4 years. But anyway, when I had to start cooking for myself, she gave me a recipe book, and there's nothing like having those handwritten notes. But I would just say, as with a lot of things, it's a mix, right? And if I can have the actual book in my hands, that's fantastic. But it is, wonderful to have other ways to be able to share those. And recipes, I know you are kind of a geek getting into old church potluck recipe books and stuff. This is an interesting thing. People wouldn't always think, oh, the EdTech Situation Room, it's about artificial intelligence. Well, yes, it is, but we're also about food and technology. So
it's also about stick to your ribs food. And it's funny because I was just going to share another resource based on that. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't figured this out, this is really an opportunity for Wes and I once a week just to chit chat with each other about interesting, funny things. But there's another resource for that. I go to archive.org is where I find old church cookbooks, and I love them. Right. There's just just always a ridiculous thing. And, sometimes it's, spam meatballs, which is just something fun to laugh at more than anything else. But sometimes you can really find gems. But the other one lately that I've been doing is there's a subreddit called Old Recipes. It's got about 500,000 followers, and people will post old family or recipes they find in a book, or they bought a used book from the 50s and there was a handwritten recipe in there that they'll share. And there's about a dozen or so recipes that have become very famous from that subreddit, so much so that I learned about this, I believe it was on NPR, that they discovered a couple of recipes that drove everyone wild because they were really so great and novel. And so speaking of our passion about cooking,
just join that subreddit. So there you go. Super cool.
There you go. Okay, well, let me share a little bit from my cooking stuff then too. So I'm a pizza maker. It's something I've spent the better part of 25 years honing my skill and craft, and so much so that I literally it wasn't exactly for this purpose, but spent some time in Italy, kind of sniffing around, and actually took a cooking class in the Italian countryside to learn more about the making of these wonderful dishes. And I have to say, my early pizzas were terrible, but then I kept reading and reading and reading and reading and reading. And one of the things you figure out very quickly that there's lots of ways to make a good tasting pizza, right? But if you're looking for a thinner crust with a more traditional pizza, there's nothing better than turning your oven on high, the highest it'll go. Some people actually break their ovens so they can use things like the cleaning cycle so that they can get 600 and 700 degree ovens. That's a little more hardcore than I'm willing to go at this particular moment in time. But my pizzas went from being okay to amazing when I learned about pizza stones and pizza steels. And so the reason they work really well is that you can take your dough, which you've either hand tossed so that it gets larger, or I roll it out, which is some snobs say you shouldn't do that, but that's my best luck is rolling the pizza dough out. And then you stick it on a pizza peel, as is what it's called, and then slide it onto the heated up pizza stone or steel in your oven. And the steel has been a generally better strategy for me. My steel is sitting on my barbecue right now with a lot of rust on it, so I need to reseason it here before I use it again. But I put a link in there to a pizza steel. If you know someone that wants to become a bit more of a pizza artisan, there's just nothing better than a homemade pizza. And I just use literally the Joy of Cooking pizza dough recipe. That's always been my go-to recipe. And I use a very simple sauce. It's basically just blended stewed tomatoes with some salt and some herbs and a little bit of olive oil. And then, whatever my toppings are. So pizza steel is a really great way to get started in that more artisan pizza space. And I think they cost like $60. They're not expensive at all.
Okay, so we got to keep on going with the pizza mojo then. I have several things under grilling, and this is a really good discovery because it works with more than one grill. But another way to get a super hot pizza stone is to use your smoker. And so, Jason, you haven't jumped into the pellet smoker yet, the pellet smoker world.
No, I really, really, really super duper want to, but I'm not there yet.
Okay. Maybe at some point the pellet smoker from North Carolina can make its way up there. I don't think I'm going to bring my big one, but there's a portable one I have my eyes on. All right, so this is the Green Mountain Grill's wood-fired pizza attachment. It's $200. Actually, the website says it's out of stock. I use this basically every week. What this does is in a pellet smoker, you have what's called a firebox. So you have a hopper of wood pellets that have an auger that turns and feeds these pellets into this firebox where they burn and create heat. And that heat is, sent up into the smoker, and you have this sort of, I don't know what it's called. It's like a blast, basically a sheet of metal that separates that, and then you've got your grills and everything above that. Well, what this pizza attachment does is it's a funnel that goes right down to the firebox, and so all of that heat from the firebox goes right up onto your pizza stone. Wow. And I'm told you can get this sucker like you're saying, 700, 800,
Yeah.
maybe even hotter. Now, I don't have, and this would be a good thing to put on. Do you have the laser that you can do for the temperature?
Yeah, I do have one of those.
What's the hottest you've gotten your stone or your steel?
I just over 520 degrees.
Okay, sweet. I actually don't know how hot mine has, but I've found a good sweet spot that I like. So I set my pellet smoker to 375. It gets a lot hotter than that because all
Yeah.
of the heat focuses. But then 6 minutes is a perfect pizza cook for me. And I could do faster, but anyway, that's just kind of what I've gone with. I have the pizza peel and the whole thing. But this not only works with the Green Mountain Grill's set of smokers, but I have a RecTech, an RT 700 Bulls smoker, and it works with that one too perfectly, and it just goes right in. So I think it was online, of course, that I found on YouTube or somewhere in some forum. Hey, you can put this on the RecTech, but as you're shopping for a pellet smoker, I think RecTech probably has the greatest value as well as performance from the different barbecue folks that I've talked to over the years. And I think this is a fantastic attachment. And I'll say, and I'll drop this in, I've got a couple recipe links. This one is, did I purchase the pellet? Yeah. This is our favorite cauliflower crust. Now, we're not doing this because we're sort of in holiday mode, and so we're having a few carbs now and then, but we've enjoyed cauliflower crusts.
Mhm.
And so there's this cauliflower all about the base, and we've tried a whole bunch of different ones. We love this one. It's so crispy. And so anyway, this is just a sort of a cooking log post about pizzas on the grill and the smoker, and so that's got some links and stuff like that to some of those other things. Oh, and do you use semolina flour on your pizza peel?
I do, yeah. Either semolina or just straight up cornmeal. So
Yeah, because
those are my
that's sort of like little ball bearings that
Yeah.
sort of let the pizza slide in and off fast. So
Yep. And in
even
fact,
frozen pizza can taste amazing when you cook it
oh yeah.
like this. And you can we supplement sometimes with some extra pepperonis or meats or cheeses, but just
Oh yeah.
frozen pizza, it just breathes new life into it.
Well, and at the risk of sounding like a stoner, I love a good Totino's party pizza, right? Like the $1.25 ones from the Jolly Mart. And part of it's because that's, I mean, that college in my youth, that would have been a strategy for snacking. And you put that on a pizza stone, and the crust is just that much better, right? And so yeah, the pizza stones and steels can do an awfully well, and plus it's great for heating up rolls, and it's a whole thing. So yeah, I think it's a really great multitasker.
So I used to love those Totino's pizzas too, and I think I passed it on to our children who enjoy those. Our favorite now though is Costco's Supreme, and they have a cauliflower crust pizza that comes in a
Oh,
2-pack.
interesting.
And it's cauliflower. Again, we'll sometimes supplement with a few more meats and cheeses. Okay, and I have to ask this technical question. When you're building your pizza, because I've just sort of decided I think what I'm preferring, do you like to do obviously sauce first, cheese and then toppings, or toppings and then cheese, or do you mix it up?
I do toppings then cheese. But part of I mean, I've learned some things over time. The first one is that the sauce matters more than it comes off as. Although sometimes getting the ragu $1.99 jar of sauce does give a certain nostalgia to the pizza, right? But I like a really light sauce, and again, mine's just in the blender. I blend up a can of, usually I try to go with a higher quality stewed tomato.
Do you go with
Sometimes
Rouse? Is Rouse a favorite, or
well,
what's
I
your sauce?
have used their pizza sauce before. I also like Rao's just when I make pasta in general. That's a really high quality sauce, and it's spendy, but I think worth it.
Yeah.
But I one of the things that I feel like is part of my pizza snobbery is that I'm kind of light on toppings. It's not empty for sure, right? Like a nice, my favorite pizza is prosciutto pizza with arugula sprinkled on top, which is just an amazing, amazing pizza. But to me, the crust is really why I make pizza. And so if you have a good crust, then really the toppings matter a whole lot less. Although obviously the toppings are freaking delicious. So.
There you go. Okay, well now I'm getting pretty excited. I'm gonna have to have some pizza tomorrow. How long ago did you discover stones and the difference that makes?
It's been maybe about, I mean, I've been working on pizza for 23, 24 years now, and it was about 15 years ago when I discovered, and part of it was that, I have to credit the internet for this because, there was a lot of like, kind of in the mid 2000s before the web became a little more modern and kind of the web 2.0 really changed the nature of the web. There were a lot of people that would put up, their own random pizza pages and kind of talk about how to, adopt some professional quality pieces. But yeah, I just love making pizza. It's really fun. It's a cool party trick too.
Awesome. Absolutely. Okay, well, let's get into some other geek gifts. What would you say are some of your top ones this year if we were gonna just kind of
Well,
cut to
I have a
the
quick strategy I want to talk about in
okay.
regards to this. And
And we
first and
need we need your
foremost,
categories. We need your categories too.
categories.
Well, you just shared categories. I didn't. I read mine, but you've got
Oh,
some.
okay. Yeah. So my categories are stuff for Apple people, stuff for non-Apple people. Something I'm calling kitschy nerdle, which is a whole genre, I think. And then I also have some ideas on building your own tech tool bag. So my shopping strategies, first and foremost, if you're buying Apple stuff for people, strongly consider going to the refurbished store. And I have to say that every time I've done that, and I rarely purchase my Apple stuff brand new. I buy used a lot. The only exception to that is phones because I can get a certain amount of subsidy for my carrier. But the bottom line for me is that the Apple refurbished, I've had the best luck with it. With Apple TVs, keyboards, one time an iMac. But the thing about Apple refurbished is that they factory check it, which is great. On things like iPads and iPhones, they replace the back and also make sure that the screen is flawless. And they make sure the battery meets certain minimum testing requirements, which is not quite a brand new battery, but pretty darn close. And they give it the same warranty that they give their new stuff. And so my best example of this, of how great this was that I bought an early days Apple TV. This was like 20 years ago, maybe 18 years ago, when they were a lot larger and were hard drive based. And I bought it refurbished online, and it just never worked like it should. And so I happened to be in Denver for something I'm gonna imagine work related, and I went to the Apple store and returned it, and they gave me a brand new one. They're like, okay, yep, that does not work in the way it should. And they just went and back and grabbed me a brand new one and said, there you go. And so I really recommend that. I also think too that if you're buying kind of techie stuff, Amazon refurbish is also a good idea, especially if this is going to be someone's cable in a bag, or you're buying like a brand name monitor, and you can oftentimes save 20, 30, 40, even 50% on the retail price. And Amazon is not quite as good as Apple in regards to the returns, but you'll get a 30-day return window, or if you buy it at Christmas time, you'll get through January 31st no matter when you buy it. And just send it back and they'll pay free shipping for that. So I'm a big fan of refurbished. One other weird tip is that, and I don't think we've talked about this, Wes, but there's been a huge proliferation of random brand names on Amazon. And most of that is Asian countries that are putting mass-produced items in the store, and they don't want to infringe on a trademark. So they choose what is almost gibberish for the brand name to be able to do that. But there's a lot of controversy around this website, but there's a great website called Temu, which is basically like an Amazon-like interface that allows you to buy things off of the Chinese market. But if you find a weird brand name, go see if that exact same thing is sitting in Temu, because chances are that either the company or the importer that brought those things in bought them at a vast discount and is charging you 5, 10, 15, 20 times more than what that would cost, just to buy them in bulk. But Temu will sell you the cheaper version of that. So cables, although I would be a little careful with cables from a place like Temu. but all sorts of like smaller electronics, I think is a really interesting idea to get to there. Or I can even give you an example of this. I'm working on my office again, and I'm kind of updating it a little bit. It's Neiffer Office like 6.0, and I wanted to buy some little magnetic hooks. Here they are because I'm gonna do a little cable management underneath one of my desks, and this is what I want to do that. And interestingly enough, a pack of 10 of these was like $9.99 on Amazon. I found that the picture was the same as it was on Temu, and I got them there for $1.99, right? And yeah, you're trusting kind of an interesting brand website, but for this non-branded stuff, it works pretty great.
I am really glad to hear you explain what Temu is. I thought it's been such a frequent thing in my ads on Instagram and
Yes.
Facebook. And I wonder, like when we went to China, been to China a few times, they had, the knockoffs. Do you
Yeah.
think any of these are knockoffs?
I imagine some of them are, and I know, having spent quite a bit of time, perusing the site, that there are brand names, for example, and you'll see a lot of this advertised on TikTok. Lenovo has a pair of dirt cheap earbuds, so wireless, Bluetooth, in-ear headphones, and Temu was selling them for $5.99. They probably were legit because you could buy them on Amazon for like $9.99 or $10.99. But in a world where a lot of Amazon, especially for stuff where the name brand doesn't matter, like my little super magnet hooks here, I think if you can cut out the middleman, I don't think that's harming anyone. If you would have bought the Amazon one in the first place, it takes a little longer to ship, but not that long. And I've bought some kind of random and cool stuff from there that's all pretty cheap. And so, do a little research. Temu has a lot of reviews available on YouTube, and some of the electronic ones are absolutely hilarious. But if you're like me and you like to buy these, cat post-it notes, it's a dirt cheap place to buy cat post-it notes, as it turns out. So I like a good cat post-it note personally. And so, that's the way I'm going to play that out. So Temu is
Something I
the
definitely
strategy there.
It's definitely worth mentioning just to be really, really wary of scams. I
Yeah.
mean, the more folks that are online, the more scams proliferate. And so, we were finding some fake, Facebook profiles. There were reports today of people getting takedown notices because they posted about ice cream day from the Facebook administrators. Well, the Facebook administrators weren't sending those messages. It was somebody who had created a fake account. And anyway, there's all kinds of ways that people are trying to steal your information, get you to click on a link, etc. So I'm glad to know that a little more background about Temu. But I would just say, online shopping can be fantastic. But the world of hyperlinks is unfortunately fraught with danger. And so just be careful out there, kids.
Yeah. Buyer beware.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we talk about Apple recommendations for gifts?
Yes.
Okay. Well, if I were to buy an Apple person stuff and I didn't know what they specifically wanted, easily the three things I would buy them, especially if you're looking to do a nicer gift, even if they already have a pair, AirPod Pros are a really extraordinary gift. Unfortunately, they are about $40 more expensive than they were on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. But if that price point works for you and it has that available, I just don't know anyone in the Apple universe that isn't very pleased with their AirPods Pro. I've had a pair for 2.5 years now. I bought my wife a pair 1 week before the pandemic started in 2020. She is still using that same pair. And in fact, I did buy her an updated pair on Black Friday from Best Buy, and she uses them 4 to 5 hours a day, every single day.
Oh, wow.
And they're cutting out a little bit. I mean, because they've had very heavy use for the last 3.5 years. But yeah, I just couldn't recommend those more. And And then the other thing that is also sold by Apple that I really think is a no-brainer for anyone in the iOS universe is AirTags. I've purchased them as gifts for others before. I've literally handed them out to, colleagues at work that are in the Apple universe. And even if you only use it as a checked bag tracking system when you're traveling, they're really hard to beat. And I do feel like Apple has dealt pretty well with the privacy issues related to that. And I think that really any savvy traveler shouldn't travel without them in 2023.
Definitely. And then what about this Anchor magnetic battery? You got that one.
Yeah, if you have,
there.
and I think it's an iPhone 12 or newer, you have access to the MagSafe charging on the back of the device. So this is my iPhone 15 Pro, and it still looks beautiful because I've had it in a case since the moment it came out. And so, there's a magnet that sticks to the back of. I'm trying to see if I have my my charger up here, but I'm a little bit paranoid about battery because I have medical devices that are literally monitoring me and I don't want to run out there. And also I feel like the phone is really indispensable in case of situations or emergencies. But, I used to just very paranoid, used to keep my phone charged up all the time. Well, this Anchor magnetic battery is currently on sale for $50. It is basically going to charge your phone from 0 to 80 or 90. It takes about an hour, so it's not super fast, but it just slips in your bag. I carry one in my kind of little everyday carry bag with me. It's a total amazement while traveling. And it also serves as a low magnetic stand too. So you can literally stand your phone up and clip it on back and then, watch it while it's plugged in. And so this has really been a game changer for me. And there are some generic brands that are okay, but especially if you're paranoid at all about using, third-party unknown charging, which you probably should be a little paranoid about that. I think the Anchor model of magnetic battery is just really quite amazing.
On a previous year's episode, I think one of our panelists may have recommended the USB condom, which is not a very well-known item, but it is to address that very issue that sometimes, especially in airports and public places, you can find USB charging ports that are not safe. So I've got a quick squirrel because it's just, we're not doing a lot of AI stuff, but Jason, do you know about the app Ice Cubes for Mastodon?
No.
So I have just switched from Mammoth this week to Ice Cubes because it has an automatic AI image generator. And I have followed this account that if I don't put an alt tag in for an image, I am pestered by a direct message that says, remember, you didn't put in your alt tag. And it really has encouraged me to, at least on Mastodon, put in alternate tags, which if someone is using a screen reader and they're visually impaired, that helps them out. So I just did our holiday gift guide because I'm sending this out so late. But I just clicked generate description, and this is what it said with AI. Promotional image for episode 312, December 6, 2023, holiday tech gift guide on YouTube and Facebook Live, featuring colorful gift boxes, technology gadgets, and a Christmas tree. Includes the EdTech Situation Room podcast. Anyway, is that not amazing?
That is pretty great. Yeah.
AI continues to amaze. I have a related Apple question. I put it in mine. Do you have a recommendation for the best bedside iPhone and Apple Watch charger? Have you tried any of those? And I did a little research, but I wondered if you actually had one or had one you recommend.
I don't. I will say that that's a case where, form and function really matter a lot, right? In part because if it's a weak magnet on the charging stand, then it's just not going to be as quality of an experience for you. I've not, but I know that they're available at several price points. And if you're looking for something that's very beautiful, you can spend $100, $200 on that item. I would also look out for one too that provided multiple charging opportunities. So the ones I've seen have the magnet for your phone, a little pop-out stand for your watch, so you can set your watch on top of a charger, a little puck charger, and then also have another charging pad for your AirPods. And so if you are super Apple user, then that would be a good strategy, I think.
And the other thing to think about, I don't have this in here, but a few years ago, I stayed with a friend who had made this custom USB charger, and she had, like, I don't know, covered it with some kind of paper or something, and it looked really sharp. It didn't look jicky at all, but it was just really nice bedside to have a nice charging station. And you see those in hotels a lot now. And so anyway, that's something to think about, even if it's just a power strip. I know. Of course, travel with a power strip when we're going somewhere in the car with, I have plenty of room and space, but it's something to think about, guest bedrooms, if people are coming over, at least provide a power strip, if not providing some kind of better charging station.
Yeah. And I obsess. What are the things I don't obsess on? But I obsess over making sure that especially when I'm traveling by car, that I have all the stuff I might need with me. But this is an example of something that I picked up a couple of weeks ago for dirt cheap, that it had decent reviews. But this is the little kind of power strip that I'm going to start carrying with me in my luggage, right? And so not only does it deal with the fact that sometimes outlets are inconveniently located, it has a couple of USB-C chargers and a USB-A charger on there. And and I have a bag of cables that is very thoughtfully and maybe anally retentively curated cables for that. But if you want to travel with tech, I think putting extra thought into that experience is really important.
Okay, I want to get to the auto and family memories for sure. Let me do the family memory. Jason, have you made one of these custom mugs for someone yet, from Walgreens or from another vendor?
Not for the reason you're going to talk about. I have used such services before. They're great.
Okay, well, I just absolutely love this. The one that I like is the 15-ounce Walgreens photo mug. They just had a special for like 50% off. And so I ordered a couple of these. But, a lot of us know folks who like coffee or tea, and being able to have a lovely, photograph of the family, a special memory. It is just fantastic. The link I'm putting in, I would recommend you select full photo, and it, is going to be cropped. But, we've done this with my dad. We have several of them. We've given them to friends. It's just really, I think, a fantastic way to continue to experience and interact with that photograph, that memory. And for the person who has everything, hey, why not a coffee mug that, helps you remember a special moment together? So on that note, I'm a big advocate for oral history. And so these are two family history related things. My dad, a couple years ago, and I don't remember if we gave it to him or how he did this thing called Storyworth. And has anybody in your family done Storyworth, Jason?
No.
So the person needs to be a writer, because if they hate to write, don't give this to them. But what they're going to get is every week a question that they answer and reply to the website. And in the case of this, both my mother and my sister and I were able to see these questions that my dad was receiving, and we put our own questions in and we edited them, and you can move things up. And this goes on for an entire year. And then at the end of the year, you have an opportunity to buy this book. And while Dad had aspired to write his memoirs and whatever, he's in his early 80s. He hasn't done that, but he's written a Storyworth book, and we have it, and it's wonderful. And our daughters have read it, and it is just really, really cool. So again, don't give, that's not free. Don't give it to somebody who hates writing, but it really is something amazing. And when we talk about family memories and the gift of just, family stories and family history, that really is a powerful gift. And so along those lines, this one is free if you have a smartphone. all of our smartphones can record audio. And so at the end of October, I put together a couple workshops. The one I was doing for our community library actually didn't make, but we had a retreat at our church. We called it Using Technology to Build Community and Tell Our Stories. And so I've got a link to that curriculum, which has a lot of resources from StoryCorps, as well as other organizations. My top app recommendation actually is StoryCorps, because StoryCorps is free. It does limit you to a 45-minute interview, so you need to do more than one interview, but it is fantastic because you can prep the questions. It gives you tips. Not only does it record, but it will also upload and share the link. And you can do that privately, or you can do it publicly. I'm a fan of posting things on YouTube because I don't think Google and Alphabet and YouTube are going to go away anytime soon. And when it comes to these kind of interviews, you really want them to live forever. So those are all things that I recommend under the umbrella of family memories. And those last things are free. And sometimes holiday time, we gather together and we have a chance to ask questions, and might be a great time to interview a member of your family, young or old. They don't have to be an old person to do that.
And I would just say I got to see my dear Aunt Jody over Thanksgiving in Great Falls. It's my dad's little sister, and she's kind of the family historian. And she brought some pictures and had some stories. And from my understanding, I think my dad's side of the family may have some rascals in there in the family tree. So now I know where I got it from. But I couldn't agree more. And I would say if Wes and I are of a certain middle age, right? So, maybe this is some wisdom we could provide, younger folks that may be listening to this, but get to know your family. Like it's such a gift. And, I couldn't agree more. I think those are both stunning ideas.
All right. What to next, sir?
Okay, well, let me talk about some non-Apple ecosystem gifts, eco gifts. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say there. That I think would also be great calls. If you have a non-Apple user, and what I mean by that is a Windows or Android user, or even Chromebooks too, there are two audio devices I would really recommend. Anchor, which I think is just a really great third-party brand name. I've never gone wrong with anything ever that I've anchored or picked up from Anchor, but they have two great products I would recommend. They have a cheap pair of Soundcore earbuds that are $20, and I've used their cheap ones before. And are they going to beat AirPod Pros? No, they're not. But they're the perfect backup pair for your everyday carry bag or your tech bag or your travel bag. And if you're used to using a really nice pair, and you run out of battery on the airplane, and you're not carrying around 35 battery packs, like people like myself, you could just keep those in your bag and charge them up when you need them. I've actually used the second recommendation. When they first came out, they were on super duper discount to get reviews. And I absolutely love the Anchor Liberty 4 noise canceling wireless earbuds. And they're on sale right now. I think that they regularly go for about $100, but they're just high quality. They last a long time. The noise canceling, not quite AirPod Pro quality, but good enough, and they fit really well in the ear. And so, and they work great on Android and iOS and Windows and Chromebooks and. So I think that those are both really great options for a tech gift for someone.
Awesome. Yeah, I just noticed you may need to put a Geek of the Week there at the bottom.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, my next category is auto. One of these is rather somber, but the first one is just an iPhone car mount. So I did a bunch of research a while back, and I would say for at least the past year, we have been using the iAuti iPhone car mount. A couple reasons I wanted to use this. One of our cars, both of our cars are now dead, and we have a new car. But our old cars, one of them had CarPlay, the other one did not. But even the one that did not, it was great to be able to mount the phone right above the dash there in the middle, because you can have more than one screen. Of course, a tech geek, who doesn't want more than one screen? But anyway, this one was just really reliable. And I actually went to an amazing Charlotte hardware store called Blackhawks. My wife introduced me, and I think we spent almost 2 hours there this last Saturday morning. This is like $19, but we've switched cars, so I had to get some strong adhesive tape. So anyway, not a problem if you end up having to move. You can get different discs that with adhesive attached to the top, and then you can actually swap it back and forth. But we liked having them in both cars so much that we just got 2 of them. So that has been good. And the other thing that's cool about this is, and I think I saw this maybe first with some nature photographer that did a lot of videos from Yellowstone and the Grand Teton National Park. It's really cool to flip the camera around, or actually you don't have to flip it around. You could have the screen facing you and use the back cameras, and then just take some time lapse as you drive in some beautiful places. So I've done a little bit of that around Charlotte. I'd like to do more, especially in the Blue Ridge Mountains, in the fall when the trees are beautiful. But anyway, that's cool. And the last thing is a little somber. I totaled a car the day before Thanksgiving, and I'm very thankful to have literally survived. And I was just stupid. And I would say to everyone, if you're on a slick road and your vehicle ever starts to fishtail, don't try to compensate by turning the steering wheel, because you can quickly find yourself in a spin and rolling your car. And that's exactly what happened to me. What I did not have at my fingertips, but I had purchased a device like this, is an emergency keychain car escape tool. And so I don't think anyone in our family is listening to this, and it doesn't really matter anyway, but I have purchased some of these 4-packs. This is only $10. Okay, it's a 3-pack. So it's 3 for $10. But the video here on Amazon will show you, best thing to do is just hang this from your rearview mirror. Because literally what happened to me was I found myself in a matter of seconds, in a vehicle that had rolled into some, thankfully, smaller trees on my side with my seatbelt on. No smoke, no fire, no gas. And I could actually release my seatbelt, but if I couldn't have released my seatbelt, I had to have the fire department actually break the back glass so that I could walk out of the vehicle. And so I did not have any way of breaking the safety glass. You can't just break safety glass with your hand. And so having this kind of a tool allows you to very readily and safely cut the seatbelt if you're not able to release yourself, and then you can press a button and break the glass. So that's a somber thing, but I don't know if I'm going to do it. I've thought about like 10 lessons I learned, totaling my Toyota Sequoia, which I might actually do, because there are some good lessons learned, and that's a very cheap thing. And the thing, in addition to buying it, is have it in a place where you can grab it if you're in the vehicle. Yeah. And that's what I saw in the video, was they had it just, and maybe that's going to seem bad because you're like, oh, that's dangling there all the time. But let me tell you, if you need that, you really need that, and you want to be able to grab it.
What a great practical gift.
All right.
Okay, Wes. Anything else? Actually, I have 2 more quick ones. If you don't.
Yeah, well, we have like 8 minutes, so we're good.
Okay, great. So these are more high-end nerd stuff, but if you got a nerd in your life that is pretty techie, and you want to give them something that's kind of silly but cool at the same time, there's a great company that's called Tidbit. That makes these little information screens. And I have one set up at work that is awesome, where it just gets on your Wi-Fi, and you can set up, it flips through different information. So mine shows the weather. It shows my next appointment on my Google Calendar. It shows what's currently playing on Spotify. It tells me how it is tomorrow. And you can add all sorts of things, from news headlines to sports stories. And it looks kind of like mid-century modern tech a little bit. In fact, they just started a Kickstarter for the second version of this, which I jumped right in. It's not cheap. I think it's on sale for $179 right now. But it's delightful. And if you're looking for someone, again, I put this under kitschy nerdle, because I think that it's great kitsch for nerds. And it's just a really great, silly gift. And then one other thing I'll note is that I've been working really hard lately on my kind of tech tool bag, which is literally a tool bag. This is my my tech tool bag. It's a nice Carhartt bag.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to propose, like, when you go backpacking, sometimes you'll weigh your pack. So if the next time Jason and I are together, I think we should probably weigh bags.
Yeah, I probably should. This, I will say, this does go in the car with me when I'm traveling, if I'm traveling by car, because you never know when you might need, a portable air blower or, a T9 screwdriver or several operating systems worth of USBs. But this is the iFixit Pro Toolkit, and you can oftentimes get these an even bigger sale. I think it's on sale right now for like 20% off for Christmas time. But this has been the perfect gift, or not gift, a tool set for me for breaking into things like laptops. I've repaired some old iPods with this kit. I have done all sorts of little things with this. And if you need a single place or single kit to kind of bulk up those pieces, it's everything from spudgers to the unique screws, like the Torx screws that are used by Apple and other manufacturers. This is really just a very wonderful set. And so I use this. It sits in my my literal tool bag, along with several other items that I carry with me when I need tools, but and to be clear, tech tools, right? But I love that iFixit kit. It's really great.
And I just dropped 2 more in there, which were my device charging recommendations. Love this. We're continually having changes with charging ports and adapters and things like that, especially in the Apple world. Amazon Basics, which is Amazon's, flagship line, has a 100-watt 4-port charger that has 2 different USB-A and 2 different USB-C. So you can do the max 100-watt charging if you've got your laptop, or an 18-watt charger if you've got, I guess that would be a phone or a tablet. Both of the USB-As, I guess, are actually 12-watt chargers, but that's coming in at $40. Using it right now to charge this Mac laptop. And then maybe this is overkill for you, but we have cars and kids, and 10-foot USB-C cables are actually pretty fantastic. And so I've got one now stretched across the room and the floor, but especially as smartphones are moving to USB-C, that's going to make more sense. And anyway, we always seem to be in need of additional charging cables in our family. So having more of those and longer ones, especially for times in the car, tend to be good.
Yeah, all in fact, I've got a couple of those 10-foot cables too. That this is just my desktop collection of cables, right? So that's kind of how the world works when you're a nerd. But I carry one of those 10-foots around in my daily carry bag, and I wish everything was 3 feet away from from power, but the reality is that it's often not. So,
have you ever done an NCCE session on your tech go bag or whatever?
Well, kind of, in that I used to do a session that was called the Tech Savvy EDC, but it was more of a philosophical question, right? And I talked about the nature of what an EDC was, and everyday carry is more associated with guns, right? Like a handgun, but the kind of always be prepared crowd has taken over that notion, because here's your phone, here's your watch, here's your pen, and I have a couple of pretty nice pens actually, but I use that as a metaphor for technology tools. But I think maybe putting together a how to set up the right bag is a great idea for a session.
Having spent some time in a hospital emergency room recently, I can tell you that having your phone with lots of juice and a charger or a battery, like that is so important in travel as well, right? The last thing you want when all of your, boarding passes are on your phone is for your phone to die. So good stuff. All right. Shall we geek of the weekend and say goodbye for the holiday gift show? Thanks to Shannon as well as Peggy. And then there's a third person. I don't know who it is, but we're so glad you joined us live.
Well, let me share mine here. I do have an AI tool I want to share because it's amazing, and it's the first time that it's great enough that I'm paying the monthly for it. It's called clipdrop.co, and it is by far the best collection of image. It's Stability AI is who puts it out. But you may remember a couple months ago I shared Upscale Media, Wes, that allows you to take images and
I use that every week. I
yeah,
taught that to my kids. That is incredible.
this is the way awesome version of that. And I'm paying $9 a month right now for it, but you can upscale up to 16x. There's a free version that's pretty good, but you can. I took this old low resolution photograph I have of. I love the 1950s photos of people in 3D theaters with 3D glasses on. They're all in their little suits and ties and stuff. And I used to use it as a background, but now that I'm using 4K monitors, it looks terrible. Well, as it turns out, I upscaled it by 4, and it has a couple of settings you can play with, and now it looks amazing. So again, Clip Drop by Stability AI, and it has a free tier, so you can do a lot of cool things with free, but it does everything from, you can generate images with it with Stable Diffusion, but you can widen it. So what they call it uncrop, which is basically take a photo and we'll make it larger and try to guess what should go around it. You can create variants of photos. You can clean up photos by taking individual objects out of them. It has a very high-end background remover. It can relight your photos if you want. The image upscaler up to 16x. You can remove text from an image. So like if you have let's say a sign and you want to remove the text from the sign, just leave the sign there. It will do that. It also has a face swap mode. And then this part is wild. It has a real-time text to image generator. So kind of like how Google auto fills in ideas as you're typing in a Google search. Well, this does this with images. So it just generates the image in real time. And it's still very much a demonstration platform like all of these are, but wow, 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 wow.
You, sir, shared on social media today a link to, and I don't even know if I shared, yes, yesterday, Stefan Bouchard's
Yep.
Substack. Exponential AI development is here. We are now in a fast transition to robots that will both complement and replace humans at work. This wasn't in the show, but I'll go ahead and drop this in because it reminds me we are in the midst of exponential change. And that's exactly what Stefan Bouchard says, that it's so hard to deal with. And we're seeing that with AI. We're seeing it with AI tools. So thank you so much. Okay, mine is a post that I previewed a few weeks ago, said I was going to talk about. It's called Social Media Text Prepper. So I went ahead and put these 3 files that I created with ChatGPT, a JavaScript, a CSS, and an HTML file on GitHub, and I wrote up a blog post about it, and I included a link to the conversation with ChatGPT. And the short of this is different social media platforms, Blue Sky, Mastodon, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, they all have different limits for how many characters you can share. And especially as you get into the microblogging platforms that are Twitter-like Mastodon, Blue Sky, and Threads, if you have a longer post or longer paragraph that you want to share, you need to break it up. And so this is a web-based solution that I originally had an app that kind of did some of this, and you can just paste it in, tap your tool, and sometimes you have to tweak it a little bit. But one of the things that was remarkable from an AI standpoint is not only does it all work, and the code, because I don't write JavaScript, was all written by ChatGPT. I had to argue with ChatGPT because it didn't want to do this for me. It said, well, that'll just take a long time and it'll be a long development process. And I finally, in all caps, said, look, I am paying to get you to do this. These skills, and you do. Will you please do this? And finally it said, okay. But that was after 3 back and forths. So that wasn't a Sydney, Kevin Roos level weirdness. But it's weird to argue with an AI and then win the argument and have it say, oh, okay, sure, I'll completely write all that code for you. And then I actually went back and had it, enhance and improve. So blog post, check it out. It is kind of a fun story. And it's something I literally use, multiple times a week, sometimes multiple times a day.
Awesome. Well, Wes, where can people find you on the internet?
Not on Twitter. I'm at wesfryer.com/after, and I'm sharing in a variety of different places, but Mastodon is my favorite spot. How about you?
I am basically done on Twitter as well. You can find links to other social media for me on my Twitter account at TechSavvyTeach. But hey, this isn't our social media accounts. This is the EdTech Situation Room. We're a once-a-week podcast on Wednesday nights from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Mountain Time, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. East Coast Time, and sometime in the middle of the night if you are UTC, and if you live there, you probably know what that means. Otherwise, you can check us out live. We always love to have live viewers. It's great to have that interaction. If not, you can always download our podcast from wherever fine our podcasts are aggregated. You can also go to our website, edtechsr.com. And also note, you can go to our website and see links to all the stuff we talked about tonight, so you don't have to guess it from just our conversation back and forth. We hope you have a great week. Stay safe, stay savvy. We hope to see you next time on the EdTech Situation Room. Good night.
Happy holidays, everybody.